career or a kid, and what's the price of choosing both? Welcome to the Own Your BS show. What we do is help you to strengthen connections, conquer challenges, and claim your messages. I'm Tien, and today we'll be diving into this topic about building emotional resilience for professional mothers. So let's get real about the beautiful messes between juggling babies and the boardrooms. And on this note of beautiful messes, my co-host is somebody who is living the reality of this right now. Her name is Yana, and I'm very happy to introduce her because she is the host of Yana TV and also the host of Timeless Teachings podcast. She's a professional working mother and, of course, mother of newborn baby, not really newborn anymore, but less than a year old, newborn baby Maya Davy. So welcome, Yana, and so happy to have you here with us.
Thank you so much, Cindy. It's a pleasure.
As I think about you, Yana, so many thoughts come to mind. And
tell me.
The first thing that came to mind was that, you are this fascinating mix of cultures and countries, a Russian-born entrepreneur, and now you're a nationalized Singaporean. So you do not look like a Singaporean at all. So tell me, how did that kind of happen?
They usually say that life kind of just brings you where you're supposed to be, whether you like it or not. Before Singapore, I used to live in New York, and I think kind of the truth of the story, I loved it there. I didn't want to come here, but life made me come here. And for the first 5 years, I was trying to leave every year and didn't succeed. And now 16 years later, I'm in love with the place. I, nationalized citizenship here, and my entire family lives here. So it's been quite not love from the first sight. Let me put it this way.
Sounds like a lot of ups and downs. You were thinking about leaving the country, but circumstances did not allow you to leave, and you kind of made peace with it and decided that this would be your home.
Well, to be honest, when I just moved here, I haven't even been to Asia before. So I used to live in Europe and in US, but I haven't even traveled to Asia before I moved to Singapore. So I had a massive cultural shock with people, with food, with weather. I remember I used to almost faint from the heat on the streets, and I couldn't eat anything spicy, and it was just tough, I think, culturally also. But then you adapt. Human beings are very adaptable. Now when I go to Europe, I look for Asian restaurants.
Really?
And I miss this flavor. I can't eat any more European food.
Do you bring your own chili sauce?
No, usually they have Asian restaurants.
Okay. I remember going to New York a long time ago when I was flying. And, in Singapore, in the McDonald's in Singapore, we have that garlic chili sauce. And overseas, it's only tomato ketchup. And it was so unbearable. I remember those days. But it sounds like you've gone through a lot of change in your life, right? Over the last many years. A lot. And it really, really takes, resilience, to be able to adapt to change. And this is what we're really talking about today, emotional resilience. For professional mothers. And even as I think about this, and I think about my own experience, and I have a confession to make, I'm not a mother.
And the reason you are. I know you are in a very different way.
I'm not a human mother. And
now people are like, what?
What does that mean, right? What does that mean? And
AI,
AI mom, little, labubu moms. So the reason why I feel that I've decided it's okay, that I did not want to be a mom is, number one, I feel that I'm a little bit too messed up to have that level of responsibility.
I had that feeling and went through therapy for 12 years.
Wow.
So I understand.
So I'm like, no, I'm going to mess up my kid. And the second thing is I feel that I just love sleeping too much. And that is one of my joys in life. And I feel that if I have a child, I probably wouldn't get very much sleep. So,
well, let me tell you, my baby decided to have a party yesterday from midnight to 3 a.m. She was just laughing, rolling, crawling, and I was just sitting there in bed like, it's midnight. She didn't care. So I hear you.
That's so cute and frustrating at the same time, I'm guessing, right?
Exactly. And I was not sure whether I find it's very adorable because she just laughs, for hours, or just super irritating because I want to sleep.
Well, you rather should be laughing than crying, right?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I've seen you with that. It got me thinking about, so the reason why I say I'm not a human mom is because I'm a fur mom, a very fervent love of animals. So I've got a dog and a cat. And I remember bringing home my 10-week-old puppy. And this was about 2 years ago. And it's a hand-picked puppy. She's a golden retriever. I love dogs and I love cats. I can't decide which one I want, so I decided both. So I hand-picked my golden retriever. She was 10-week-old. I brought her home. For the first few weeks, every night, like clockwork, at 3 a.m., we will wake up because we hear her screaming.
Yeah.
So we'll rush out to the playpen only to see her swimming in her own diarrhea.
Of course.
She'll be having diarrhea every night at 3 a.m. and she'll scream and we'll run to her. So we had to give her like emergency showers. We had to start scrubbing the floor.
Well, you see, that's your training, for babies.
Exactly. I'm kind of like a mom right now to scrub the floor, to calm her down. And this happened day after day. And my husband and I, we got so tired because every day it's at 3 a.m. Oh, we'll get up. We're so tired. We're so grumpy. And yet we are like so willing to do it. And we're so concerned about her well-being. And that just got me. I learned something new about myself then. Very often we think that we can't give, but the more I realize that how much you're willing to give, it's really how much you're willing to love. And when you love someone or something, you actually will give. Yeah, so speaking of loving and giving, I really want to hear from you, Yana. What's been your experience of motherhood so far?
That's such a loaded question. Great and very challenging. I think like any mom probably would say. And I think especially like in the modern age where we have been sold the idea that modern woman needs to have 10 out of 10 in all areas of life. And it's challenging because then you have, first of all, internal expectation, but then also societal expectations that you need to be like a perfect mom, a perfect wife, if you're in a relationship, daughter, sister, professional, friend. And then do also something for the society. Usually, we also expect that now. Yeah. So it's it's very hard to balance those. Yeah. And I think the reality, which I saw for other women, and I thought our family will be different, but somehow it's all the same. I think everywhere. That at least for the first year, when the baby is about first 12 months, it probably would be a woman who 90% takes care of the baby, whether she's ready or not, whether she likes it or not. And I mean, maybe with the exception, I would say, if a husband from European country, especially Scandinavia, which is more common for men also take paternity leaves. But that's culturally just a very specific kind of smaller group of people in terms of just the whole world, right? So for the rest, I find it's mainly women and we'll see it everywhere. And that's challenging, exhausting, and sometimes you sort of mixed feelings about emotional resilience, about things. But then also at the same time, of course, I mean, you could have sleepless nights, you could be super tired, you could have, issues with feeding or pooping of the baby, or
pooping of yourself.
Pooping of yourself, exactly. I mean, things you never thought about really, especially after giving birth, right?
Yeah.
And so, but then when you look at the baby and baby just smiles and loves and hugs you, all of this just like washed away.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting balance where you have everything mixed together in terms of emotions.
Yes. It sounds like it's just a profound mix of emotions, right? You can't even really describe it unless you take time to reflect and kind of chunk it down.
It's like the whole cocktail, like of everything just around it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful cocktail. And, I've heard a lot about, mothers, when they give birth, there's this one thing about taking care of the child, but there's also so many other things about how your body changes. Yeah. I've seen you with Maya, and you are like this warrior princess, this strong. You remind me a little bit of Xena. I have no idea why. I used to play that game a lot. And it's like this strong lady, and you're tall, right? So it's like, wow, I'm in charge here. I can do everything at one time.
I'm like, yes, my husband looks at me. I have baby in my one hand breastfeeding, and doing something, either cooking, cleaning, or laptop, or walking my dog with the other hand, and giving instructions to someone simultaneously. So, yes, he was like, I'm married,
That's the queen right there.
That's the queen right there. Exactly. But to be honest, also like for mothers who have 2, 3, even 4, 5 children, and no help at all, I can't imagine. Yeah, so, and especially if they also try to do some work, and if they're single moms, I think it's incredibly challenging.
Yes. This is, you got me thinking about my parents. Yeah. So there's this thing about, when I was not born yet, when my brother was in my mother's tummy, my father already started flying. He used to be an aircrew. And he flew for at least 30 to 40 years until he retired. So he was in the air all the time. And my mom had a full-time job as a secretary. So she was always in Singapore working a full-time job, having 2 kids. So when I was young, they actually kind of put me in with different nannies and neighbors. And that actually made me struggle a lot with self-esteem issues. But another topic altogether. But I know my mom had that guilt. So I just want to talk a little bit about this guilt.
Mother's
And,
guilt. I was like, hello,
guilt,
famous mother's guilt.
Yeah. Yeah, so this guilt and the fact that and I really do agree with what you say. It does seem that, even though these days we talk about equality and we all kind of know that, but, women just kind of take up that responsibility, right? And I remember, even when I think back about the hardest times of my life as a young child, I remember that there was one time I was practicing at the gym and I broke my arm. It was my mom who brought me to the hospital. She was grumpy, but she brought me there. I remember that I couldn't do my artwork and she actually took over. I'm going to draw it for you and hand it in for you. And I remember that because when I was young, I was so naughty and the principal wanted to expel me. And she literally went to the principal and begged the principal, please let Cindy finish at least her high school. So even though she was under a lot of pressure, but she was always physically present. And it got me thinking, wow, sometimes these acts of love is not just in the big gestures, but in the everyday choices.
It's basically
right?
just showing up. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
And I think also when I talk about mother's guilt, it's just such a big topic and so common for so many women, even though not all women, I must say, which I was also surprised because you mentioned about Yana TV and I interviewed a few who are mothers and also professionals, and some of them say they don't have mother's guilt.
Oh.
Which I mean, personally, I was surprised. They were so thrilled to go back to work, and they're like, never mind, kids gonna grow up, they're gonna be fine. So, but I wanna have my peace of mind. But for me and for most women that I know, it's a big topic, and you kind of do feel like you kind of cutting short everywhere a little bit. It means that you can't really be 100% everywhere at the same time. So you have to choose where do you want to be present. And you need to learn also through emotional resilience, sort of to compartmentalize in your mind and to be very clear with your emotions. Otherwise, like if I'm here with you talking and then my mind goes, did my baby eat? Did they put her, is she sleeping? Is she okay? Then I can't focus.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So, and I think so for many moms also, it's just about being able to trust that when you are not there, your children are taken care of and you have to arrange it that way so you can focus on something else.
Absolutely.
But it's constant. I mean, my own mother is 75 and she has mother's guilt every day.
Oh,
She still remembers.
Even
She's
at
like
75?
She was like, especially now, I think, because now she has a granddaughter and she has even more mother's
She's
guilt.
the grandmother's guilt now.
No, more mother's guilt looking at the granddaughter because she was like, when you were little and the baby, we had no money, I couldn't buy you your presents. Or I didn't feed you this variety of food you're feeding your daughter. I'm like, Mom, I turned out just fine. But yeah, it's never ending.
It's really amazing what women would kind of do to kind of like fulfill the responsibilities. And I was just doing a little bit of research and I just wanted to very quickly share with you and maybe the audience, it could be quite intriguing to the audience as well. Okay,
Let's do it.
Let's do this. I'm going to ask it in kind of like a quiz question.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start this. So we've got 3 questions. So question number 1, okay? So the audience can guess, and of course, Yana, please guess. Number 1, what percentage of women with kids under 18 have turned down promotions or switched to less demanding roles for the family? Is it A, 38%, B, 68%, and C, 48%?
I think 68.
68, you're right. Bingo.
Because I know almost all of the friends I know, this is what they decided to do.
Yeah, so it's almost 2/3 of moms have hit the bricks on their careers, taken up their responsibility. Number 2, this is probably an easy one. What percentage of moms are the primary child caregivers in their families?
100%? Well, okay, maybe not.
A, 44%, B, 64%, and C, 54%.
I think 64.
64%. And you're right, nearly 2/3 are running the show at home. This last one, and this is also really quite interesting. How many hours do you think working moms clock a week when you combine job and family duties per week?
I would say 24/7, but never mind. Let me hear the statistics.
A, 65 hours.
Okay.
B, 82 hours. And C, 98 hours.
I would go for 90.
98 hours.
Yes, I would
and
go
that's
for
the correct
98.
answer. That's
Wow.
basically working 2.5 full-time jobs.
Wow. And the 1.5 you're not being paid for. which is really unfair if you think about it, right?
Exactly. So this is just fascinating statistics. And Indra Nooyi, the former CEO of PepsiCo, she once said, women can't have it all. We pretend that we can have it all, but we just can't. So this brings me to something I'm really curious. Can working moms have it all, or are we just dreaming of something impossible?
That's such a great question. The answer is yes and no.
Okay. Tell me more.
So yes, you can, however, not at the same time. And I think this famous saying has been paraphrased by various famous people. Oprah is one of them, but many other also famous women were referring to this, that there is this unrealistic expectations that first of all women put on themselves when they want to have it all simultaneously in all areas of life. Like you can't be a perfect mother, 10 out of 10, and a very high achieving flyer career woman, 10 out of 10, at the same time. Something got to give in. And you have to choose. And I think that's your statistic shows that often women, what is it, 2/3, right?
Yeah, 2/3.
Especially with small babies, would choose to take care of the family and put their career on hold and then perhaps resume. And that's just the reality of life at the moment, which, we can debate, is it good or bad, is it sad or not? But this is what has been happening in the society. And I do feel that it's also something which is important to be addressed by people on various levels, that moms need to be employed, it needs to be given maybe more flexible hours and just opportunity to contribute, because I also know many who actually would like to work, but the reason why they turn it down because the structure of the company wouldn't allow them to continue working while being a mother, which is not fair if you think about it.
So this is unrealistic expectations and also societal expectations.
Absolutely,
as well, right?
Absolutely. And also if you look like even social media or media in general, there's this a lot kind of perfect pictures. If we look even at many influencers or women who, I'm not going to say names because we are recording, but people would know because they had, the headlines of the newspapers, the very famous female entrepreneurs who are running big companies and being mothers. And many say that it's possible to have it all. But then the other joke is they probably would have 10 nannies or daycare just, built around them. And so they have
if you have a $10 million empire.
This is what I mean, right? You will hire a chef, a cook, a driver, a day nanny, a night nanny, a
breastfeeder.
A breastfeeder, and a child educator, and massager for yourself. When you do this, so of course you can do that if you have the resources. But the reality for most mothers, it is not the case. So I think it is important to prioritize, and I think it's totally okay to prioritize what is important, because the life is long, we would hope to be, if we take care of ourselves. And I think there are different stages for different things.
I hear what you're saying, and this kind of makes me think a lot about, the expectations that we put on ourselves from others, and also the expectations at home, the kind of expectations that even our spouses might have of us at home, right? Even if a woman is not a mother, there is still so much that she's doing all the time. Think about it, right? We are working, we're developing ourselves, we need to make time for Netflix, we need to catch up with friends from the different phases of our lives. And if I think back about the closer men in my life, my father, who's retired, he's got no friends. My brother, he keeps to himself.
Actually,
all the
the same in
no
my family.
Friends.
My brother, my father, no friends.
No friends. I'm like, what's wrong with you guys? Okay, sorry about that, but in love. My husband, also no friends. And I'm not talking about friends as in of course we've all got ex-colleagues and people that we meet, but I'm talking about friends that you really can bitch and banter with. They know all your dirty little secrets. And I realized that the closer men in my life just do not have friends. So this was very weird. So they don't really have many people to catch up with. And it got me thinking about, how much I love my husband, but I'm just going to talk bad about him a little bit. I remember when we first
It's
got
only
married.
a bullshit show, right? So here we go.
Bullshit. No, so he comes to me, I remember when we first got married, and we were staying in a small little HDB flat, right? So he'll come to me and, darling, what's the Wi-Fi password? Simple, we have been staying there for years. Huh? And then after that, during dinner, he'll come to me, darling, where's the pepper? And then when there was one time before he went to work, he came in, darling, where's my working pants? And I'm like, damn it, this is your own house. Go find your own shit. And I'm thinking, not only do I have to be your partner, I also have to be your mother.
Well, I had to whip men in my home into shape because my bonus son and my husband exactly about this. So they know where their stuff is, where things are in the kitchen, that they do things themselves with a constant ongoing conversation. But now we're fine.
Yes. So we need to sort of mold each
Yeah.
other a little bit, mold ourselves to be more patient, and we'll mold them to be more independent, right? Yeah. So this also got me thinking about work and a couple of statistics to share as well, yeah? So I did a talk to a professional women's group some time ago, and I found some statistic about working women interesting. The first one is Gallup found that 34% of women are likely to burn out more than men at work. Second, a McKinsey research shows that women leaders are overworked and under-recognized.
Well, and underpaid.
And underpaid and
that would also
underpaid.
add.
Exactly. And my favorite, Harvard Business Review says that women do more to fight burnout, and it's burning them out.
Yeah, because then it becomes sort of never-ending race where on top of everything else, you're also supposed to be happy, relaxed, and fully taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
And it's just not always possible. So I think it's quite a sad statistic actually if you think about it.
Even when, statistics just kind of throw at your face, right? So I think it makes me curious with all that is going on, Yana. So how does a working mom find their own version of having it all in the moment? How do you help yourself find that?
Well, I told you, 12 years in therapy before I became a mother.
So that's what we need.
Yes, that's definitely, helped and in soul searching and sort of acquired a lot of just self-awareness. So I would say that the first step would be to work, if we can use this word, on self-awareness and just become more self-aware about who you are and what you want and what do you really want. Because I think a big percentage of that burnout that you talked about is just because women don't really know what nourishes them the most. And if you don't know, you can't really reach out for that. And so that's why I think it's very important first to just work on this and understand who you are also as a person and what it is that really makes you tick and what kind of mother do you want to be. Not necessarily what your mom tells you should be doing or your sister or your neighbor or social media, but you yourself, what kind of mom do you want to be? And do you want to know breastfeed, bottle feed, co-sleep, not, nanny, no nanny, confinement nanny, doing yourself? Do you want to work or stay at home or combination of things? And it's very individual for each person. And also even, let's say, if we talk today, the topic is professional moms, right? If you decide to go to work, there's the whole variety of arrangements you could do for your children. What does it mean? 90% at home, 10% working, or the other way around, or something in between? So I think it's just important to know what do you want that really makes you happy. So, and that comes through self-awareness.
I love what you said about moms need to know what nourishes them. Yeah, because very often we think that nourishing or resting could just be sleep, but there's a lot more than that.
A lot more than that, exactly. And to know, actually, to realize what nourishes, I think it takes a little bit of time of just being with yourself. And it doesn't have to be traditional meditation if people don't do this. It could be as simple as you go for a walk by yourself. Or maybe if you love cooking, you cook, in silence by yourself, or you dance, or you write, you journal, you do anything, or you talk to a friend if it's easier for you to kind of crystallize your thoughts when someone is listening to you. So whatever it is, this is working. I would strongly encourage to spend some time, invest time in actually understanding. And I love the question one of very, very wise women asked me a very long time ago, which really kind of hit home for me at the time. And I'm still asking myself this from time to time when I'm getting lost. So here's the question. What nourishes your soul? And I'm still saying it and I'm having a goosebumps.
Deep question.
I'm not your mind, not your body, not your heart. What actually nourishes your soul? And I find when that is part of us nourished, then somehow we find energy and time for everything else. But if not, that's where the burnout starts creeping in, because often women feel that we do so much and we invest so much and we just try our best, so badly in all areas. And yet somehow we don't feel fulfilled. Why is that? Because our inner part is not nourished.
That's beautiful. And it got me thinking of another quote which says something like, sometimes we are tired not because we are doing too much, but because we are doing too little of what creates a spark in us.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's exactly
and I
it.
know you like Marie Forleo.
Yes.
So do I. I'm such a
Yes.
fan. And I know one of the things she says that really energizes her is just going for a dance class.
Yes, exactly. And I find that it's very important to do daily something at least for half an hour that energizes, nourishes, creates this spark. I would go through the activity preferably because that some kind of moves your body, moves your mind, right? So something that, and then at least half a day a week. So they actually statistics when you talk about wellness point of view that to prevent burnouts, the minimum amount of me time a woman needs to have, especially a working mom, would be 30 minutes a day and about 3 hours a week just for herself doing what nourishes her soul.
Okay, that's a very good tip. So 30 minutes a day, 3 hours. Is that inclusive? Is the 30 minutes inclusive in the 3 hours?
No, I would then make 4 hours that day when you do it. When you do 3 hours, make it 4.
Okay. So it's like carving time out for yourself, right? Beautiful.
Exactly.
I really like how practical that is.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not just about talking about how can I make time in my calendar.
Yes, which brings me then kind of, to the next step. We were talking about self-awareness, right?
Yes.
And the next step would be self-regulation, like emotional self-regulation. And what I just shared right now is one of the tools for the emotional self-regulation. So how do you actually prevent your burnout and you become calm and crystallize, your thoughts and your feelings? And that's one of the ways how you can do that.
Yeah. Because when we are so drained, we feel a lot more triggered easily, right? Because we feel that life has been unfair to us. But when we feel energized, it's like you see the world in a totally different way.
Exactly. And it's also one of my teachers, a dear friend, used to say that if you don't actually do anything to rest enough and rejuvenate, then exactly what you said, your triggering kind of points, they become just heightened.
Yes.
And then if two people are like that in the relationship, then suddenly your emotions go high and now you have two idiots talking to each other, right? So at least one so can remain calm and a bit wiser. So it's not kind of, there's no explosion in this conversation. And I think the same then with your children or with colleagues. Let's say if a woman has really tough time at home, for example, maybe young baby haven't slept in months or in a year, and of course you would be very irritable at work. So if your mother of a young baby doesn't actually do anything, I mean, I know it even with myself. Like if I forget about part when I have to do something, because hello mother's guilt, right? I'm like, I spend extra hour for the baby instead of doing something for myself. But then the moment I start yelling at my husband, I'm like, okay, I just have to leave home and do something. So to me, it's my like a bell that rings at home.
And it can also be kind of doing that something with your baby.
Exactly.
It can be, right? It doesn't have to be a separate thing.
Exactly, absolutely. Like even, I mean, now with my baby, today I told you I went for the baby yoga before the recording. So, and you have all kind of activities you can do together, but you have to do something for yourself. That's, I think, very important. And I would also add one more point because I find it just so, from real life, I see not always happening in the relationships and at work. And that makes, life for women more difficult and therefore, again, more burnout, maybe less promotions and less support at home. And we can talk about courage or like in other words, the self-advocacy when you actually stand up for yourself. And I think here is a bit tricky, particularly in Asia. When I have friends who are of like European background, they find this a bit easier. My Asian friends who are mothers, they find it a bit more challenging culturally also, because then you need to ask for what you want. And sometimes you have to be firm about it. And sometimes you have to, firmly ask, let's say, your spouse that, hey, I need more support. And I need you to do this, and that. And he might say, sorry, I have work to do. And you say, so what? So do I. Exactly. Come on. I need you to take care of the baby. And then he would say, well, I don't know how. I'm like, so am I.
Deal with it.
Yes.
You try not to kill the baby. I try not to kill the baby.
It's going to be fine. So, because sometimes, often it's the joke, I even see it in our family, which is I kind of love, but I also see it with many others. When the baby starts crying or becoming feisty, the man goes, here you go, honey, and the woman takes the baby, takes a deep breath and goes, okay, I'm going to figure it out. But the reality is, the spouse can also do that, right? So you just kind of have to redirect that, hey, here's the baby for 3 hours, deal with that. And I'm going to go do other things. And the same at work. Like I find that when a woman actually have children, I personally believe that she can go and renegotiate arrangements with the boss. And I think in a company which is kind of more forward thinking, it should be okay and acceptable.
Yeah.
And there's this whole conversation right now about conscious businesses, conscious leadership, all of this. And I just find that should be, totally okay when a woman can come into the office and say, hey, now I have a baby. So let's talk what it means, for me. I still want to have promotion. I want to go into leadership position, perhaps, or maybe not, depending what she chooses, right? But coming back to the statistic that you showed, if she chooses not to go for leadership position, I would hope she does it not out of fear that somehow she's now not good enough, because she's the mom, so she can never live up to the expectation of the boss to be a super leader, because many women have this fear. I would say that if she chooses to step back, it's out of this deep inner feeling that she just wants to be with her children, and it makes her happy, which brings us to what is nourishing your soul. If that's what nourishes her, I'm super happy for her. If she does it because she's afraid that somehow she's not enough, then we have a problem there,
Yeah. So they do it out of, the fact that you want to, is going to make you happy, it's going to give you the freedom, rather than do it from a place of, I can never go after my dreams now.
Exactly, because even before, there's this whole other statistics. If you do like leadership work for women in the companies, and if you ask women to draw, let's say, who would be the ideal boss of the company, and they draw, it's almost like 99% they would draw a male figure without realizing it, like the big boss of the company, especially if it's a big company. So it's very rare when they would draw a woman. So there's already this little unspoken understanding or misunderstanding rather, where women feel that somehow they might not be good enough to go for those high professions and like really important roles. But when you become mom, I think this feeling of that somehow you are lesser even more, because now you have to take care. You might not be reliable. Your boss might think that you think more about baby, therefore you're not very productive, and all of those things come in. So it's a very tough, choice. But I find women should be given this chance to work and go high in a career if this is what nourishes their soul.
Yeah. Beautiful. And I think having a baby, it's you're stepping into a more powerful place. It's like you're stepping up in life, right? You're taking on this Xena role, warrior princess role. But sometimes we step up, and then on the other side of our life, we kind of feel that we have to step back, or we might intentionally step back. So there's this balance of, what do I really want? So the inner work, I like how you've broken it down into 3 S's, which is self-awareness, and the second one was self-regulation.
Self-regulation tools,
and the third one was courage, which is
self-advocacy.
about self-advocacy. So very powerful, okay? And I really like what you're saying about this inner work and going for therapy. A lot of people just think that, hey, we go for therapy, it could be a one-time coaching, but it's kind of like a lifelong thing, to be able to do inner work on yourself. And I've noticed that a lot of the powerful women that I've spoken to, those who have done this inner work, are people who are calmer, they're more present and more respected.
And you're less triggered. That's the most important thing, because when you have children, hello, all your triggers. So
exactly.
If you haven't
all your buttons
about everything. So if you actually haven't done enough inner work, it's challenging. I mean, it is really. So I would definitely encourage moms to do inner work. I mean, even if you sort of haven't done it now, you have children, do it now. It's going to make you a better mother. It's going to make you a better professional woman, because you're going to be definitely calmer, more relaxed. You will be able to multitask. You will be sort of more serene about things, and definitely much less stress, and hopefully not burned out, because you would know your boundaries, right? Because a big part of actually doing your inner work is learning what are your healthy boundaries.
Absolutely.
And your ability to say yes and no, and from what place are you saying that? Like, are you a people pleaser? Are you trying to say yes because you don't want to be perceived as a bad girl, which comes, I don't know, from your childhood because your mom or your dad yelled at you or made you feel bad about something. So, I mean, it sounds maybe like very simple, but it's the reality of many, many people. And then there's this whole other conversation, I think, also right now, that it became very very sexy right now to be trauma informed about something. But you even see this term, before it was not even part of the conversation. But now I can see it pops up everywhere. Different specialists, they in their qualification, they have this, that I am a trauma informed specialist or something, and then they
I just read one article about trauma.
probably,
Okay,
hopefully
sorry
not. Sorry about that, but that's the reality of social media. Actually, watched maybe 3 reels, and where the concise information about this trauma and how to heal in 3 steps. Right? Joking, but not joking. And but real people, who are actually professionals in this area, I can also see that now they are going and work in the companies with leaders, and it's also becoming more acceptable to actually do this kind of work in leadership. And we can see that even in the workplace, that people and companies who understand the importance of doing this kind of work, they have much better leaders, they have healthier dynamics in the team, they have much happier employees. Therefore, we know people, they don't leave the company or the job, they always leave the boss. It's this famous saying, right? So there's better communication, more productivity. I mean, just overall culture of the company really benefits from this. So there's so much benefit from actually investing in individual.
I love that. Interestingly, this got me thinking of another talk that I did, and it was mostly women leaders there as well. And I got them to put up their hands. How many % of you have actually done things like coaching, counseling, or therapy? Like you've invested money in yourself. And I think in that group of about 30 to 40, there was only like 1 or 2 persons that put up their hands. Yeah, in Asia, at this point, this is based on what I've noticed. It might have changed up to now. I feel like people are still very hesitant to spend money.
Yeah, because
and
it's a taboo
they probably
topic.
think, only want to spend like $50 and $100, but they don't realize that, hey, if you were to pay, get a good therapist, a good counselor, a good coach, it can really change the trajectory of your life.
But to be honest, I think companies should be paying for that.
Ideally,
in my humble opinion, I understand maybe startup and might not have budget for this. Maybe scale up, also not. But big companies, corporations, I think definitely should be part of the package. Some kind of coaching, therapy, wellness. And I know there are quite a few companies who are already taking it on as a pioneers. But I find it is very important because, of course, also even the fees for those specialists. Like I'm in the human development field. I mean, I do coaching, so I know the fees. It's not cheap.
Yeah,
so
it's not cheap.
It's not. So I understand, especially for professional mom. Okay, if she's maybe married, it's a bonus, then she has support. But what if she's single and she has to support a child? What if she has 2 or 3 kids and she has
then
to
there's
pay
the finances
exactly?
part,
She has to pay
the
for their
loneliness.
schools, and and then so for her, I mean, I understand. To find that money to pay to a therapist, a coach, might not be top of your priority when she has to think about kids and herself. Even if it's a family, they need to think maybe about mortgage or education. So I think actually companies should step up.
And these days we also have a lot of people in-house that have wellness leads and all that. They're kind of stepping up to have those divisions as well. As we think about women, when you talked about that 3S, it got me thinking about when we start to think about building self-awareness, doing the inner work, it's really about getting to know what are your inner patterns and tendencies.
All your demons and angels and all parts of you.
That is causing us to be doing so much,
Yeah.
right? So, I'm going to get you to guess what are the P's. Actually, one of them, you mentioned it earlier. And the clue is this, okay? And Sheryl Crow once said this. She had breast cancer. And one of the things she said is that she said, my self-appointed role in life was to make everyone happy. And this happened until she had breast cancer. So the first P would be what you mentioned earlier, the people-pleasing tendency. So going backwards and out of your way.
And women are just
to make others
catastrophically guilty of that.
Yes, we are so guilty of that,
any age, any culture, any religion, like any nationality. Like I traveled all over the world and lived, all over the world. I see it everywhere. It just seems to be that, I don't know, we brought up like this, I guess.
It's almost like we kind of take in this little responsibility. I have to please people. So that's really hard. And the second one, okay, so the clue is this: when our identities are anchored to external results and productive work. See if you can guess that P word.
Productive.
Yeah,
Productivity, pressure, I don't know.
Producer.
Oh, producer, so it's close. Productivity, producer.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is when we feel that we have to work beyond longer hours. we are ambitious, we want to get
And many
things
women
done.
do, even statistically.
Exactly.
They say what? Work double and paid half compared to a male colleague in many companies still.
And sometimes it could be this inner need that, if I'm going to have time to myself, there could be something I'm fearing, right? Sometimes I don't want to be alone with my emotions. I'm fearing about what I might think of myself, or I think that I'm worthless because I'm not doing something right now, and I feel that, I'm worthless. So there's a lot of this inner, I call it BS, belief system, bullshit, blind spots.
Belief systems, I love that. I didn't think about it. This is a good one.
And the last one, and this is very common as well, the clue is when we obsess about excellence, even in the details that do not always matter.
Perfectionism?
Perfectionism.
I definitely have been guilty of that.
Me too. Yeah, I think this is something very common, and study after study shows that, this is largely a female problem. And there was a study done by HP Hewlett-Packard, and they said that, when we think about interview, when we apply for interview, we look at the job description. Apparently, women will only apply for the job if they feel that, they qualify 100%.
Yeah.
But men would
probably
actually
like
apply for the job
something.
like 60%.
Or 60%, yes. And
Yeah.
yes, I can see that with the male colleagues. I can see it also like in the business. I can see that.
So I just find that some of these traits, it's, this black and white thing, right? It's like a balance between what drives us and what also derails us. So for example, a perfectionist person, they've got high standards, but what also drives them is that, they don't take chances of themselves. Yeah, and then the people pleaser is that, we make other people happy, but we cannot set boundaries. And then the producer is, okay, we get things done, but we cannot stop working because we are so addicted. So it got me thinking about how sometimes we are so busy doing so much on the outside, we really, really forget what's happening to us on the inside.
Well, and that's where the burnout happens, and deep unhappiness and all kind of other, like mental health is a huge topic these days, especially since 2020. And I think it's important to pause. But I have to say here, just because I have been in this field for many, many years, and I have seen it with people in Asia also more so, I would say, for women who are maybe about 40, 50. I don't want to put like a particular age to this, but at some point they don't want to look at it. And I remember like when I was just at the beginning of my career, I was not comfortable with that. Like I was a person who would push you. I'm like, you have to look at it. Like even with my mom, I'm like, Mom, you have to do inner work. She's like, what? So, but then I learned to accept that actually it's also a choice. And even if a woman chooses not to look at all of that because she's afraid, that's her choice, and it has to be respected, and no one there to tell her that she should be doing otherwise.
Yeah, this is so powerful, and I hope that, when you're listening, if you're a mom or a woman, you would really sort of, take this time and effort to just work on yourself and give yourself the grace of doing this powerful work on yourself. And, it got me thinking about this topic of time, because we're all running out of time most of the time. Speaking of time, I know that you have a Timeless Teachings podcast.
I do, yes.
Yeah, so I guess the question is, given that we're so busy and we have all these tendencies, and I think both of us are guilty of some of these as well, right, to be honest. So how do we practically manage our time with everything that's going on?
What helps me, and I find, especially after now I became a mom, I'm even more zoomed into this, is a very famous 80-20 rule that pretty much says 20% of your efforts would create 80% of the results. And it works the other way around too. That 80% of your efforts would create 20% of the results. So you have to know what are your 20 and 80%. And so for me, especially like when Maya, the baby, came into my life, I actually had to sit down even more, make a list of everything that I'm doing personally and professionally, and very honestly look at it. Like, is it 20% or 80% group, right? Is it where I'm spending most of my time and getting nothing from it? And this is I spent very little time, and it's the bigger, kind of rewards in all areas. And I find that to be clear about that is really what helps optimize time. And we can do it personally, we can do it professionally. Like, let's say with children, I am a big advocate. It's about quality not necessarily quantity. I would say the same in the relationship. I mean, with my husband, we have been together, I don't know, 15, 16 years. I don't remember anymore. So, and I mean,
you're allowed to not remember.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we have very full lives, we very active, we do a lot of things. But when we're together, we very mindfully, consciously present. So we are very connected even after so many years as a couple. And I find the same also professionally. Depends if you are like an entrepreneur or if you're employed by someone, but it's a similar approach to this. Then you just have to look at what gives you 80% of what you want professionally and focus on that 20% of your efforts, and everything else I delegate and try to outsource as much as I can. And I know for some people, especially women, because I know I worked with my coaching clients and some of my friends, find it very challenging to delegate because they're perfectionists and they feel no one will do it as great as they do. So, which could be true, it definitely people will make mistakes and they might do things differently. But what I also learned here, the key word is differently, not kind of lesser or worse, just differently. And I actually over the years saw that if I open my mind and I trust, and I kind of let go of my perfectionism when I delegate a task to someone and people do something, and my initial reaction is, it's not what I asked. Like, I asked you to do this and you did that. And I take a deep breath and I look closely again, to what they have done, and it's better than I thought. So I think we're kind of also quick to judge that my way or highway.
Yeah.
So, and then when you're delegating and when you work with people, you have to be more just kind of accepting that people think differently. They, accomplish things differently, and often different is actually could be better than you.
Beautifully said. So next time when I look at something, even though I don't have a child of 2 kids, I'm going to ask myself, is this 80 or 20, right?
Exactly.
That's such a good, immediate question that we can ask ourselves. It also got me thinking about my mom. Both my parents are retired. Even now that they're retired, my mom is still really busy. Like, what are you
good for
doing?
It's good for your life.
When she gets frustrated, right? She's like, okay, I have to go to church in the morning. I have to bring your dad for exercise. When I come back, I've got a bucket of clothes to wash. And then after that, I need to prepare for tomorrow. So there's all of this doing too much and kind of being in a hurry all the time, which I don't think it's always, very healthy. And this got me thinking about somebody that I met a couple of months ago, and let's just give him a name. His name is Caleb. And I thought, wow, this person is so fast. Number one, when I talk to him, you can see his eyes just moving and he's just thinking. And when we were having a 1-hour meeting, he was looking at his watch and then looking at his phone, looking at his watch again.
I would feel super triggered.
I was so triggered, and he talked so fast. I felt that, can I have some subtitles? Because I don't understand what you're saying. And I was asking myself, is that a superpower or is that a disorder, And I left that meeting not just feeling offended, I felt anxious. And I went into the car, and thankfully because I've done inner work on myself, so I told myself, okay, you need to take a deep breath right now. You cannot drive and you cannot go home in this state, because I know I'm going to sort of yelp at my husband, right? So this got me thinking about this topic of hurry, because with so many things to do, we are hurrying all the time. And shout out to my friend Jenny, who gave me this very precious book. It's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And the reason why I brought this up, because I know I'm one of those people who wants to hurry the F up all the time. But I learned a couple of gems from this book I thought I would like to share with you as well as, the audience. And just 3 gems. Okay, the first one is hurry kills wisdom. Yeah, so think about it. When we are rushing, we can't think deeply. We make snap decisions.
Yeah.
We react rather than respond, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Number 2, hurry and love are incompatible. Yeah, so it says love requires patience, presence, and emotional connection. And these are the things that hurry actively destroys. And the last one, which is my favorite, it says that hurry is not just a disordered schedule, it's a disordered heart. It's a disordered heart, because the problem isn't just busyness, it's a deeper internal restlessness that keeps us from true peace. Yeah, I thought it was so powerful. It got me thinking about the reason why we're hurrying is because we want more time, we want to save time. But rather than trying to save time, maybe we should just be spending it on the things that truly matter to us.
You know, there's this
rather
joke
than
in
saving
the wellness world, which I'm part of also with my work with the wellness, that when a very busy business person comes to a sage and asks, so what do I do? How do I reduce level of stress? And the sage tells him, you should meditate 10 minutes a day. And then the person says, Master, I don't have 10 minutes. Okay, then you have to meditate 2 hours a day. So it's kind of to your point about hurry, that we just have to slow down a little bit.
Yes. You make more time because you have no time, right?
Exactly.
So,
Then
yeah.
if you're kind of person who feels you have no time for yourself, then you have to make more time for yourself. Yes.
Exactly. I think it's really like the state of mind. Do I have
Yeah.
time? Yeah. So
And actually, there is always time, right? I mean, the question of kind of, do I have time? It's more, what do I choose to spend my time on?
Yes.
That's the question.
absolutely. You know, I love this. And you know, before we wrap up, what's one game-changing tip you'll give to working moms who are watching this right now?
Game-changing tip.
Or a piece of advice.
Yes, it's very simple, but I find that simplicity actually what is the most profound. Love yourself. Love yourself more. Love yourself often. You know, spend time with yourself. Do everything what we discussed today. And I do find that the topic of self-love is still sort of undervalued, and especially in the professional women. And everything what we talked about today, it kind of covers that. Even what you mentioned, being a people pleaser or producer, right, or perfectionist, is all because of lack of self-love.
Yeah.
You know, if you're stressed out or burned out, it's a sign you don't love yourself because you don't take care of yourself. So to me, actually, self-love is like the solution to everything we discussed today. So I would just say, you know, acknowledge to yourself that you are deserving to love yourself, and then take active actions in doing that.
Beautifully said. So in everything you're doing, ask yourself, am I loving myself?
Yes, am
right
I
now?
actually loving myself? Or even when you wake up in the morning, I would, you know, how can I love myself today? What can I do? How can I show to myself that I love myself today?
I love that question. How can I love myself today? So powerful. Thank you so much. And now would be a good time for quick fire questions.
Wow, I
So
am
we're going to take
excited.
turns to ask each other, okay? So I'm
Okay.
going to ask you one and then you ask me one. And maybe
Okay.
we just do about 5, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so the first one. Would you have to answer it in 5 seconds?
Okay.
Would you rather have a messy house or messy hair?
Messy house.
High five. Okay.
Okay, my turn.
Yeah.
So, what is the best advice you have been given that you always give to others and never follow yourself?
Oh my God.
Tough one. 5 seconds.
Always give to others.
But never follow yourself.
Stop yelling at your husband. Okay, I am so guilty of that. But after that, you know, these days I've learned to apologize. But, you know, tendency, yeah. So love, be patient. I'm working on my self-therapy. Okay, what's the weirdest place you've fallen asleep during work?
Or on a chair when I was a student and I worked like in a student council or something. And, you know, and I was so tired, I was sleeping on the chair outside of the classes at the university. So that's
In school?
Yes, it did. Yes, that was my earliest memory.
Okay, very good. So not with baby Maya yet.
With Baby Maya, I sleep everywhere.
Sleep with her.
You know, yes, I sleep everywhere where I can, possibly.
Very
Okay,
nice.
my turn, right?
Yeah.
Okay, to continue conversation about babies, even though you say you are not mom, but let's imagine that you have a toddler, and let's imagine that you have a boss. And if your toddler and your boss throw tantrums at the same time, who do you attend to and why?
Definitely the toddler.
And why?
Because I think that, hello, you're an adult, deal with your shit yourself.
Right?
Like, the baby doesn't know what to do. She might eat up dirt on the floor. I don't think you're going to do that, right? Something's wrong with you. Yeah, so definitely the toddler. Number 3, would you rather clean up the baby's poo or your husband's vomit?
Baby's poo. Sorry, honey.
Okay, so the
You know,
baby
for
comes before the
mothers,
adult.
baby's food doesn't even smell.
Oh,
Or in fact,
really?
it actually smells like fruits. I'm not kidding.
Oh
like
my
I take my husband, like, is she pooped? I'm like,
No.
let me check.
Okay. Let me go back and go for therapy about
Okay, now my turn, right?
Okay.
So about emotional resilience and intelligence, let's talk about this. So do you think that people who have emotional resilience, they ever lose it when their Wi-Fi goes out, or they just built in a different way?
Wi-Fi as in, actual
Internet,
Wi-Fi?
yeah. Like if you're emotionally resilient and nothing to no internet, would you lose it?
Oh my God, yes, I think, but I'll be conscious of it and to just sort of like coach myself through it. But I think I will
You'll be
lose
never
it in a
mind, it
heartbeat.
is just the Wi-Fi.
It's probably lose it first and then come down. Yeah, so I'm practicing how to come down before losing it. I hopefully don't lose it at all. But yes, yeah, I think I'm very addicted to the internet. Okay, what would be the 3 words baby Maya would use to describe you?
Loving, caring, and annoying.
Why
Because
annoying?
mommy is like, let's change the diaper, let's change the clothes, and she hates. But she likes. Okay, let's do this, let's do that. And she's like,
That's so cute and sweet.
So if your life had a theme song that would play every time when you walk into the room, what would that be?
Theme song.
Yes.
Oh wow, that's a very powerful question. Probably something by Taylor Swift.
I love you too. Well, yeah, there are many things that I
I think it would be the song that goes, I can't remember the title of the song, but it goes like, look what you made me do.
Yeah,
Look what you made me do.
what you made me do.
That's such a revengeful song. Gosh, I'm so guilty. Sorry about that.
Well, it's
Okay.
Own Your Bullshit show.
Oh,
so.
bullshit, yeah. Okay, my last one to you. What's your superhero mom name and power?
Wow, for myself or for my own mom?
For yourself,
For
for yourself.
myself. Wow, this is such a great question. Name and power. Power, patience, which is a huge P for me to learn. It was not my power before I had a baby. And name, gosh, it's 5 seconds. Okay, name.
Patience.
Patience. I know what comes to my mind, something like cuddly something. Yes.
Like a Care Bear.
Yes, like a Care Bear, like a cuddly bear. Yes, something like
Patience
this.
Care Bear. That's so cute. That's so cute.
Yeah. Do I have one last question for you?
I think so.
Okay, so since it's Own Your BS show, so my question would be, if you had a no bullshit kind of day when you could say anything to anyone with no consequences, what would you say and to whom?
Oh my God. To whom? Okay.
On camera.
I shall not say the person's name,
However,
but I will probably say, like, can you just strip yourself of all this act? I know that this is all a front that you're putting up. I will probably go to the person and say that.
I
And
think
say,
that
can you just relax for a moment?
I think we
and
can
just
say it to
stop
many people.
Yeah. Because I feel like I have a lot of people like that in my life. So can you just relax the F up and stop, doing all this, give yourself a break. You don't have to be smiling all the time. You can be yourself and that's okay.
I love that.
Yeah, so I guess that's what I want to say. And I do want to just say how much I've enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you for peeling back the curtains and sharing with us about your journey with baby Maya, for sharing your insights about being a professional mom, and also sharing your timeless teachings to our viewers today. So to our viewers, what's a gem from this episode that resonated with you? And what's one little step that you can take as you build emotional resilience, whether you're a mom or you're a woman? So thank you for watching this episode today, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
We are on the dot. Look at us.
Oh my God.
We are on the dot with the recording. And now you have 2 idiots talking to each other.
Hello, you're an adult. Deal with your shit yourself.
Sorry, honey. It's
got
only a
married.
bullshit show, right? So here we
Only
go.
bullshit.